Well, hello, dear students. Here we go once again, taking a look at some information about memory and the law. Took a look at memory from a scientific point of view, and we're continuing to take a look at it now from a practical point of view. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Elizabeth Loftus right now. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus is one of the most famous psychologists in the world for her research related to memory and the law. Interesting story about her and how she started taking a look at this. Something very strange happened to her when she was a graduate student, and her uncle accidentally implanted a false memory in her. When she was about 10 years old, her mother died by drowning, a sad event in her life. When she was a college student, a graduate student, she went home one holiday to visit, and her uncle asked her about her memory about that day. And Elizabeth shared her memories. And then her uncle said to her, "But don't you remember finding your mother's body and calling 911?" And Elizabeth said, "No, I don't remember that at all." And he said, "Well, you did." Her reaction at first was to be very ashamed of this. And about a week later, she was visiting an aunt and told her this story. And her aunt said to her, "Elizabeth, don't be ashamed. You did not forget finding your mother's body. I'm the one who did that." But the strange thing that had happened was that after her uncle told her that she should remember it, she had found that the memories were coming back. Coming back? But they had never actually happened to her. Dr. Loftus, when she became a researcher, wanted to see if she could implant false memories in other people. But at first she could not think of an ethical way to do that. So she tried some things that sort of got up to the edge of it, and she came up with a very clever experiment that I'd like to share with you right now. Here's what she did. She showed a video of an automobile accident to a large group of students. And then a few days later, she called them all back to ask them questions about the video that they had seen. Take a look at the word verb in the middle of the screen. About 1/3 of the students were asked how fast were the cars going when they smashed. Another third were asked how fast were the cars going when they hit. And another third were asked how fast were the cars going when they contacted. Now, each person was writing their answer down on a piece of paper. They weren't sharing them out loud. Then she took the average of each of the three groups. If the student was asked how fast were the cars going when they smashed, the average answer was about 41 miles an hour. Look at the third column. If they were asked how fast were the cars going when they hit, the answer was about 34 miles an hour. And if they were asked how fast were the cars going when they contacted each other, the average answer was about 31 miles an hour. So keep in mind now that each person was giving their honest memory. Hello, but look how different the answers are. And what she found, of course, was that the students' honest answers differed remarkably. You can actually change people's memory or push people's memories in the direction that you want, depending upon the way that the question is asked. She finally was able to come up with a situation where she could implant false memories in other people. Let's take a quick look at that now. What Loftus did, working with both small children and adults, was to tell them that after having spoken to their mothers, that they had in the past been lost at the mall for about an hour, and then they were safely found just fine. And then she asked them, could they provide any details about what had happened that particular day. And not everyone, but somewhere between 40 and 50% of the people, of the children, about 25% of the adults then said that they did recall it, and they had to search their memory to pull up the details. But when they did so, they even added extra details to this thing which had never happened. So, quite remarkably, we can actually even be caused to remember things that never happened. But perhaps you experienced the same thing earlier in one of our classroom exercises where you remembered some things in the office that wasn't actually there. But trust me, if you didn't remember something, some of the other people in class did. And so perhaps now you're starting to understand why there's some considerable concern in the court system about the usefulness of eyewitness testimony. But let's take a look at these bullet points together. Certainly courts must and still continue to use eyewitness testimony as part of the court system. But eyewitness testimony is not conclusive, but it's useful. Though sometimes nowadays people are still convicted on eyewitness testimony alone. Something to keep in mind too is that the confidence that a witness has and the memory that they have, or the prestige of the person, say a Catholic priest, testifying as to the truth of something, well, we could still expect them to be being truthful, but that's not the same thing as saying that their memory is correct, because a truthful person can still have an incorrect memory. In fact, I invite you to think back to a video from the start of the chapter or from another lesson here where even law students significantly disagreed about a fake robbery that took place right in front of them in a classroom. Let's listen to Dr. Loftus herself now for about 3.5, perhaps 4 minutes, while she describes some of her work and some of the tragedies that have taken place in the legal system as the result of erroneous eyewitness testimony.
I study false memories. Unhappily, Steve Titus is not the only person to be convicted based on somebody's false memory. In one project in the United States, information has been gathered on 300 innocent people, 300 defendants who were convicted of crimes they didn't do. They spent 10, 20, 30 years in prison for these crimes, and now DNA testing has proven that they're actually innocent. And when those cases have been analyzed, 3/4 of them are due to faulty memory, faulty eyewitness memory. Well, why? Like the jurors who convicted those innocent people and the jurors who convicted Titus, many people believe that memory works like a recording device. You just record the information, then you call it up and play it back when you want to answer questions or identify images. But decades of work in psychology has shown that this just isn't true. Our memories are constructive. They're reconstructive. Memory works a little bit more like a Wikipedia page. You can go in there and change it, but so can other people. I first started studying this constructive memory process in the 1970s. I did my experiments that involved showing people simulated crimes and accidents and asking them questions about what they remember. In one study, we showed people a simulated accident, and we asked people how fast were the cars going when they hit each other. And we asked other people how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other. And if we asked the leading smash question, the witnesses told us the cars were going faster. And moreover, that leading smashed question caused people to be more likely to tell us that they saw broken glass in the accident scene when there wasn't any broken glass at all. In another study, we showed a simulated accident where a car went through an intersection with a stop sign, and if we asked a question that insinuated it was a yield sign, many witnesses told us they remember seeing a yield sign at the intersection, not a stop sign. And you might be thinking, well, you know, these are filmed events, they're not particularly stressful. Would the same kind of mistakes be made with a really stressful event? In a study we published just a few months ago, we have an answer to this question. Because what was unusual about this study is we arranged for people to have a very stressful experience. The subjects in the study were members of the US military who were undergoing a harrowing training exercise to teach them what it's going to be like for them if they are ever captured as prisoners of war. And as part of this training exercise, these soldiers are interrogated in an aggressive, hostile, physically abusive fashion for 30 minutes. And later on, they have to try to identify the person who conducted that interrogation. And when we feed them suggestive information that insinuates it's a different person, many of them misidentify their interrogator, often identifying someone who doesn't even remotely resemble the real interrogator. And so what these studies are showing is that when you feed people misinformation about some experience that they may have had, you can distort or contaminate or change their memory.
Thank you, Dr. Loftus. And you, dear student, I hope you found this video educational. I know it's been a pleasure for me to make it for you. I'll see you sometime again real soon. Meanwhile, have yourself a great psychology day.